Hi, my name is Dear Tiagi, and in this video, I'll be going over a crash course of every single Calc 3 differential technique / application, and I'll be going over all these topics for this video. So to start, right, a partial is a type of derivative, and it tells us the slope along a directional axis. So if we have a surface defined by z equals, right, it would tell us the slope along either the x-axis or the y-axis. And the idea is basically, well, first notation, right? The notation for a partial, we use the symbol del, so it'd be del f over del x / del y. And we can also use the notation f subscript x, okay? So the idea with the partial is that whenever we have a surface, right, to find the partial along some axis, what we basically do is we take a slice of the surface, and then we just take the 2D derivative of that slice. So for example, right, if we were to do this practice, if we have the function z is equal to x squared y, the idea is if we want to take, for example, the partial with respect to x, we would set y, we would consider any other variable other than x to be constant, and then we just differentiate x. So y is constant, so this becomes 2xy, and then z of y, right, in this case, because we're differentiating with y, x would be constant, so it would be x squared, okay? And partials, similar to derivatives, have second derivatives, or second partials. So if we imagine our function, right, z, we have two paths here. We can either take the partial with respect to x, partial with respect to y, but then from here, we have multiple paths. We can actually note this somewhere else. Let's do this notation, right? Okay, and from here, right, we can take the partial squared with respect to z, or with respect to x, or we can take the partial of y with x first, okay? And then the notation for this, right, this would be, in this notation, it'd be f xx, this would be f xy. So notice how it flips, right? For here, it's y and then x, here it's x and then y, so notice that. And then it would be the same thing for our path this way. And this is called a derivative tree, because it shows us the path that the derivatives take from the original function. Okay, and one more important thing is that mixed partials, so for example, f, x, y, z, which would be first the partial of x, then the partial of y, then the partial of z, is equal to f, y, z, x. So the order doesn't really matter when you're taking these partials. Okay. Next, implicit multivariable differentiation. So similar to Calc 1, we had the idea that whenever we're differentiating, right, if we differentiate, for example, z with respect to x, if we have a z term, then all we have to do is add a dz dx, or if we're doing with y, dz dy. And if we're differentiating x, we just differentiate normally. And if we have a y, we make it constant. So similar to that. So for example, let's say with a function x squared y plus xz plus yz squared, and it's equals 8. So the partial z partial x, right, is what we want to find. So going term by term, right, x squared y is constant, so this is 2xy plus xz. These are both not constant, right? X would be just 1, so z plus x times derivative of z, which means we have to do del z del x. So x del z del x. Here y is constant, so this becomes just 2yz del z del x, which equals 0. Okay, and we're going to collect the del z del x terms on this side, move these terms over this side, and just factor out, and we'll get a del z del x is equal to negative 2xy plus z divided by x plus 2yz. Okay, now there is an easier way of doing this, and the idea is, for the easier way, what we have to do is we have to say that del z del x, for example, is just equal to negative the partial of x divided by the partial of z. Okay, and this works for anything, right? So if we have del z over del x, we can do del z over del y. This would be negative fy over fc. We can even do derivatives like the dy dx. So dy over dx implicitly would be negative f of x over f of y. Okay, and yeah, so the idea is if we wanted to apply this equation, right, we first have to make it into a function where it equals 0. So we do that this is x squared y plus xc plus yz squared minus 8 equals 0. Then we'll do the partials. So we get that this partial, negative f of x, right? So 2xy plus z, and then partial with z. This would be x plus 2yz, and you can see they're the same thing. So this is just an easier way of doing implicit differentiation. Okay, next let's go over the chain rule. So just like we had a chain rule back in Calc 1, we have a chain rule for Calc 3, and it's just a little harder, but it's not anything we can't handle. So for the chain rule in Calc 3, the idea is, right, the functions are going to have multiple variables. So there isn't just one chain rule, there's like a whole family. And the idea is to find the chain rule for a specific function you're looking at, you draw a derivative tree. So for example, let's say we have a function, right, w is equal to f, function of x and y, and then x is a function of s and t, and then y is a function of just s, for example. So we draw the derivative tree, right? We have w, then we have branching off to x and y, right? So these would be partials, right? So this would be partial w over partial x, partial w over partial y. And the reason why is because we're branching off into two paths. From here, we have s and t related to x. This would also be partial x, partial s, partial x, partial t, and then this one just s. So this one would be derivative because this one, y is only defined by one independent variable, s. So this would just be a plain derivative, dy ds. Okay, and the idea is, right, to find a derivative, like a chain rule derivative, like del y or del w, del s, right? We just follow the paths and we add them together. So this one would be the path to s from x would be like this. The path from s from y would be like this. And so this would be del w del x times del x del s. Plus, right, because there's two paths to get to s. There's that path, and there's this path. So this would be del w del y times dy ds. And that would be kind of our chain rule for multivariable functions. Next, we have the idea of a differential. So a differential, right, there's two things right? Delta z tells us the actual height between two different points. But then we have the idea of a differential dz, and this is kind of like a linear approximation. So if we imagine a curve, right, our delta z would be our actual kind of change, but then our dz, that would just be the change based on a linear approximation from that point, based on the derivative at that point. That would be dz. Okay? And so the way we define dz is as the partial of x dx plus the partial of y dy plus the partial of z dz. Okay? And the reason why this is helpful is because it helps us to approximate delta z. So we can, if we have like delta x, that we know this, and we know this, we know this, we can kind of approximate what our delta z will be from that. Or we don't really need to fc dz then. Okay, this is called the total differential. Next, we have the idea of directional derivatives. So a directional derivative is similar to a partial derivative, except it tells us instead of in just an axial direction, it tells us the slope in any unit vector direction. So a slope in any unit vector direction. And the formula for a partial or directional derivative, right? It's notated like this. It's notated as a d subscript the unit vector, f x y, and the formula is it's equal to the gradient of x y dotted with the unit vector. So the gradient is what it tells us basically. It's a one dimension below our function or below our terms, and it tells us the direction for the greatest increase or for the fastest increase. So that's the gradient, and the formula for the gradient is f of x, partial of x, I plus a partial of y, j. And this is for a function, the three variable function, right, x, y, and z. And so again, it's one dimension below, and it tells us how to go, which direction to go to increase the function the fastest. An important part of the gradient is that it is orthogonal to the level curves. So a gradient, right, shows us, right, that the R of t is just the level curve in terms of vector form. And so this tells us that the gradient is perpendicular to our level curves, which is an important concept to realize. Okay, and again, if anything in this video doesn't make all that much sense, feel free to leave a comment below or watch one of my other videos, right? Because for each of these topics, I've created a much more in-depth video that really goes into depth with problems and better explanations. So if anything is confusing, watch those videos. Okay, so that's all the techniques, and next we'll be going over the applications. So first, the first application we have of these techniques are finding tangent planes and normal lines. So with a plane, right, we need a point and we need a normal vector. And so the idea is to find a tangent plane or a normal line, it's the same thing. We need to find the normal vector and the point. And so the first step for finding a tangent plane or a normal line is we have to pretend it's a level curve and get it into some form such that we have a function, some function, equal to some constant, okay? And once we have that, we find the gradient. And the reason why is because the gradient is perpendicular to the level curve. So the gradient is normal to our level surface in this case, right? And so by doing that, we find the gradient, which is our normal vector. And we have a normal vector, we have a point. We can then create our plane and our line by using the formulas for a plane and a line, okay? Next, relative slash absolute extrema. So for relative extrema, right, the idea is we have kind of a couple cases. And again, first of all, relative extrema occur at points, critical points. And a critical point in multivariable is when the partial equals 0, the partial y equals 0. So the partial of all independents equal 0. But the thing is, not all critical points like these have to be extrema. Some could be, undefined at a point. Some could be saddle points. And a saddle point, which I'll explain later, could also happen at these points. Okay, so we have kind of a couple cases, right? We have a case that fx and fy, they both go from positive to negative, right? So they'd be like that, which means we would have a maximum. Case that fx and fy go from negative to positive, this would be a minimum, right? It would be like that. And we have the case that fx and fy both go differently. So this would be negative to positive, maybe this would be positive negative. And so this would be called a saddle point, because depending on which way you look at it, it's going this way in one direction and this way in another direction. So it's a saddle point because it kind of looks like a saddle. Okay, an idea is to find these relative extrema, we use the second derivative test, which basically helps us summarize this idea. And so the idea is we take this function, which we notate like that, and it's equal to fxx times fyy minus fxy squared. And then from this, we look at cases. So the first case is if our this function, right, dxy is greater than 0, and then our fxx is less than 0, this would be a maximum. Because what this shows us, it tells us that fxx and ffy are both greater than this, which means that they're both, fx and fy, are both increasing or decreasing. And then if fxx is less than 0, that means it's a minimum. Or sorry, it's a maximum, right? Because it's not going down. So the maximum. If fxx is greater than 0, it's a minimum by that same kind of logic. If dxy is equal to, if it's less than 0, this means that fxx and fyy both have opposite signs, which means it's a saddle point. And finally, if it equals 0, then the test is inconclusive, and we have to do some kind of other technique to figure out if it's a relative extrema at that point. Next, finding the extrema, absolute extrema, in a closed region. So to find the absolute extrema in a closed region, we have to draw a diagram. So the first step is to draw a diagram. And then from the diagram, we break it into parts. And we use the techniques we've learned before to kind of figure out which parts have maxes plus mins and which ones, could be max or min. Absolutely. So let's say we have a function fxy, and it's equal to x squared plus xy plus y squared. And then we have this diagram, right? The only regions we're allowed to look in are in this rectangle, and this rectangle is centered about the origin, and dimensions are 2 and let's say 4. Okay, so the first step is, right, we want to check inside this rectangle, and the way we check inside that is by doing the second derivative test to find the relative extrema within it. And so second derivative test, right, we do partial of x, which is 2x plus y, partial y, which is 2y plus x, and we see when they're equal to 0. So in this case, the only time they're equal to 0 is when they're both 0, 0, and that is in our region, right? That would be right there. So we plug in 0, 0, and we'd see, okay, is it a max or a min? So we do second derivative test, right? F x x is equal to 2, f y y is equal to 2, f x y is equal to 1. So 2 times 2 minus 1 is greater than 0. And then f x x is positive, so therefore this is a minimum. Okay, so we have 0, 0 as one of our potential minimums, and the value at 0, 0 is 0. Next, we'll be looking at the boundaries, because we just tested only for the inside. So the boundaries, right, we just break it into parts. This first part would be, let's say this part, would be a line, and this line is equal to x equals 2, y is equal to just y. So all we have to do now is just plug in this into our function. If we do so, f2y, we get that 4 plus 2y plus y squared is our function, and then we can just do a simple Calc 3 derivative test and figure out our points. So we'd figure out our critical points slash maximums slash minimums or extrema just using Calc 1 techniques. And then that would tell us the lines, but we need to do the corners as well. And the corners is pretty easy. We just have to plug in our corner points. So for example, for this one, right, this would be the point negative 2, 1. And so we just plug in to our function. And then again, we'd be writing this down all in a list. And then from this list, right, we'd have like numbers and stuff. We kind of see which one's max and then which one's the min. And that's how we find our absolute min slash absolute max for a closed interval. And finally, the last thing we have is optimization. And optimization, the idea is we have some kind of primary function, and we want to optimize the function under some other equational constraint. So for example, let's say with the primary function f of x, y, and we're optimizing it under the constraint g of x, y, which is equal to some constant. So the idea is, right, there's a proof, which I actually made in the last video, so check that out. But the idea is we can use Lagrange multipliers to solve this. We could also use, the test I talked about before, but this is the easier way. And the idea is we can take the gradient of f, which is equal to some constant or some multiplier, the Lagrange multiplier lambda, times our gradient of g. And from this, right, we're going to have 3 equations. We're going to have 2 equations from this. Well, if it's we'll have 3 equations. We'll have 2 equations from this, right? The x component equals x component, y component equals y component, and we'll have this, which means we can then solve for x, y, and lambda. Okay? And yeah, that's every Calc 3 differentiation technique and application. I kind of went through everything really quickly in this video and just kind of like a broad brush of it. So if there's anything you guys still have some kind of issue with or still aren't sure about, make sure to go to my channel and click on the Calc 3 series or the Calc series, right? And I have a bunch of videos on these topics going more in depth. And yeah, that's everything you need to know for this video. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.